As promised at the end of the previous tutorial, this one will start off straight away by us modelling in the screw insets to the front of the mouthpiece here. So wasting no time, we want to go ahead and get in an object that we can run a boolean operation with to make this inset. So we're just going to bring in a circle here, and then we're going to bring down the vert count from 32 down to something more reasonable like 10. Once we've done this, we want to scale the circle down and start to align it up with the edge on the mouthpiece where we want to make these cuts. You'll notice that the boolean operation that we've run here has ended up being a hollowed out boolean, which is not what we want. It's not what happened earlier with the slats boolean. It's not because the mesh is incomplete. It's actually because the front face is perfectly aligned with the front faces of the mouthpiece. So all we need to do to rectify this is just bring these out a little bit, and you'll notice as soon as it's no longer clipping with the front, we get a nice filled in boolean operation. I'm not 100% happy with where these cutouts are occurring at the moment, so we're going to go ahead and create a custom normal based off of this selected edge, and we're going to use that to reposition where these cutouts are occurring. Before we apply the boolean, we just want to go and mark all of our creases as sharps, as once we apply the boolean, it's going to remove all of our creases, and marking them sharp is just going to allow us to more easily crease up the edges again once we have the boolean applied. I make a duplicate of the helmet here for two reasons. One, we're about to do a boolean, so I have a restore point of the model just in case things go wrong. Two, we need a copy of the mouthpiece that doesn't have these boolean details into it so that we can use a shrinkwrap modifier later on to smooth out the edges where we have the cutouts. This is the primary reason we made a duplicate of the helmet earlier, so that we can extract the front of the mouthpiece and use this as a shrink wrap mesh in a moment. Much like we've done before, we want to go ahead and apply a vertex group to a selected area of the mesh, as we don't actually want to shrink wrap absolutely everything on the mouthpiece here. You'll notice at the moment with the crease marked on our shrink wrap mesh, we have these horrible artifacts around where we have the cutouts on our proper mesh. So what we want to do is go ahead and remove the crease off of the edge on the shrink wrap mesh, and then we want to bevel that edge and just add as many loops to the bevel as you want. It really doesn't matter. We just need something of a high density count here. You can't really see what I do because I do it all without the wireframe of edit mode showing, but all I'm doing here is doing Control B on the shrink wrap mesh and adding in a bevel and just putting a whole lot of loops by scrolling up on my mouse wheel. And you'll notice that this gives us a really nice, clean, consistent edge right down the front of the mouthpiece there. So I hope you guys are happy that we are now starting to put more details like this into the mesh. I do notice down the bottom here, there's a bit of a shading inconsistency around the bottom edge here. So I just extend the reach of the shrink wrap modifier down to those 4 faces just at the front to clean that up. I just noticed a bit of a nasty shading error that we have here, and this is primarily due to some poor decisions I made very early on in the series, but it's a very easy fix. The main reason we're getting this is because we have a big old N-gon right behind here. I don't think I paid too much attention to it earlier on because it is fairly tucked away in our mesh and you don't really see it, but we can go ahead and easily clean this up because all we need to do is just make this area a quad-based mesh and get rid of this nasty little N-gon. So you can see there, by no means is that perfect, but you'll rarely ever see that in any of the renders you'll do with this. Unless you want to do a close-up of all the errors of the mesh, then by all means you can see it all you want. But for what we are trying to achieve, that is a fairly good resolution to that little pinching problem that we had. We're adjusting the 3D cursor here so that we can bring in a Bezier curve, and we're just going to model in a little detail that you'll be able to notice on our reference sheets. There's this little bar that just sits underneath the mouthpiece in this little inset. This does take me a while to do as I find Bezier curves rather finicky. Yes, we could have possibly done this by extruding out a circle, though I kind of feel like getting the bends on the corners of the mesh would have been a little bit harder. Yeah, maybe we could have done it at 90-degree angles first and then added in bevels. You could 100% try that if you want to, as opposed to using Bezier curves. This is just how I did it. It does take me a little while. I might go ahead and speed it up by 2 times for you guys, just so you don't have to sit through it quite as long. But it should hopefully detail the process out of how I managed to achieve this using Bezier curves. Just ignore the modeling I do on the helmet here. I go ahead and add in an extra loop cut that I end up just actually dissolving. Yeah, why I went ahead and did this at the time doesn't make any sense. It got me absolutely nowhere, and I spent all this time putting in the edge loop just to dissolve it in the end. So just completely ignore this. I don't know what I was thinking. It doesn't make any sense. What we're about to do here is by no means a hard part of the modeling. We're just going to go ahead and extract the face out from the front here. And we're going to use this as a little connecting point for where this little curve that we've just modeled can fit nicely into the mesh. It's very easy. I'll just play this out at normal speed. And then once I go back to muck around with the Bezier curve, I'll speed it up again for you guys. So we are once again almost at the end of another tutorial. I know for the most part this was mostly just mucking around with this Bezier curve at the front here. I did go ahead and speed that up for you guys as we just need to get a shape that looks nice. Personally, as I said, I just find mucking around with Bezier curves takes a little bit of time just to get nice curvature. By all means, you could have tried using a circle and having 90-degree edges and then just going ahead and beveling them. By all means, you could probably achieve the exact same result we have here. I just happen to do it with Bezier curves. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed getting to model out those insets to the front of the mouthpiece there. Starting to add just a little bit more detail to the helmet. It's starting to look really good, and I'm excited to get to do more of this with you guys. So I shall see you in the next episode as we continue to detail out our helmet.